Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take a look inside Psychic Awakening, Ritual of the Damned, The Thousand Sons bit. This book is broken down into 3 bits with Thousand Sons, Dark Angels and Grey Knights, and in this video we're going to specifically and only look at the Thousand Sons bit. I've also done a behind the scenes video on deploymentzone.tv where I sit down with Stylus, who's a long time Thousand Sons player, and we have a good old 50-minute chat about what he sees, because he can see the Thousand Sons bits better than me, about what he sees is really good, which bits stand out. Because when I originally picked it up and had a flick through, I wasn't that impressed. But when I shoved it into the hands of Stylus and said, what do you think? He nearly wet himself. Because what we've got in here is only a page of stratagems, so I was a bit meh. And we have cults. If you bring a Thousand Sons list now, what you can do is give each detachment a cult, and there's 9 cults. Obviously there's 9 cults because it's Tzeentch. Cult of Time, Cult of Mutation, Cult of Scheme and Cult of Magic. If you bring in 2 detachments along, you can make one the Cult of Prophecy and one the Cult of Time, for example. If you bring in 3 detachments along, you can make 3 different cults: Cult of Change, Cult of Duplicity, Cult of Manipulation. So you pick cults for your detachment, and each cult comes with a Psychic Power, Warlord trait and a Relic. If your Warlord is from the cult, then you can give a character in that cult the Relic. And if your Warlord is from that cult, you can give your Warlord that Warlord trait. There is a stratagem in here, just like in the Space Marine book, called Magister, where you can select another Thousand Sons character to gain a Warlord trait. So you can have a Warlord with a Warlord trait, and you can have another character with a Warlord trait who's not your Warlord. So there's a way of getting a couple of Warlord traits now. Now, if you've got a cult, everything in that detachment except for Chaos Cultists and Zangor units gain the relevant cult faction keyword, and named characters such as Ahriman or Magnus don't also gain the cult faction keyword. So this means cultists can't be part of a cult. And this means Zangors and Magnus and Ahriman are not part of a cult. This means that this book is specifically designed to help Heretic Astartes, your Rubikai, your Scarab Occult, your Mauler Fiends, your Forge Fiends, things like that. They're going to benefit from these cults. Now, once you've divided your army into a couple of cults, the psychic power from that cult you know in addition. So your sorcerers know their psychic power, they know the smite psychic power, and they know the cult psychic power in addition. If you have a detachment with, I don't know, 3 units of Rubikai in, then all the sorcerers in those units of Rubikai will all know the psychic power from that cult in addition to their psychic powers. Now that's the main thing you get from this book. You get access to a chunk more psychic powers and the stratagems, because you might use the Warlord trait, you might use the Relic, but you are going to be using the psychic powers, and because some of them are very good. Let's go through the stratagems first, though, so you get a taste of what else is in here. So when Infernal Fusillade is extremely good. Use the stratagem for 1 CP on Rubic Marines or on Terminators, and when they're chosen to shoot with, until the end of that phase, models in that unit can shoot twice with rapid fire weapons if they didn't move. So if you have a unit of Scarab Occult Terminators that didn't move, they can fire twice for 1 CP. But Veterans of the Long War on them, they're firing twice for 1 CP. Firing twice can mean at 2 different units. 1 CP for firing twice if they stood still, 1 CP for Veterans of the Long War, +1 to wound. Chuck Prescience on them as well. They're hitting on 2s. With a Chaos Lord nearby, or Sorcerer, the Sorcerer guy that gives the Thousand Sons equivalent, there's a reroll hit rolls of 1. So you can be re-rolling hit rolls of 1, hitting on 2s with Prescience, firing twice with Veterans of the Long War, and remember your bolters are AP -2, and that costs 1 CP. Infernal Fusillade. There's Risen Rubikai. Use this stratagem when you set up a Rubikai Marines unit from your army during deployment. This unit can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone. So at the start of the game, you can set up a unit of Rubikai right in front of the enemy line. Say you know you're going first unless they seize. You're 9 inches away. Then in turn 1, you move your Rubikai forward, then you can charge. Why would you be doing that? Sacrificing a unit of Rubikai? Well, you could touch a tank. And then that means that tank would have to fall back, and that tank isn't shooting in turn 1. Or you could put a unit of Rubricae away from enemy lines to the left, to the right, somewhere on an objective where they're going to hunker down at the start of the game. Deployment shenanigans or movement shenanigans are always interesting. There's a 2 CP one for yoked automata, and it means that Rubricae or Scarab Occult Terminators can heroically intervene 2d6 inches if a character gets charged. That seems a bit odd, but let's not forget that Scarab Occult Terminators are really slow. They only move 4 inches, and if you've got your demon at the front, or if you've got your dude on a disc at the front and he's about to get charged by he gets charged by enemy units, then suddenly being able to, for 2 CP, heroically intervene 2d6 inches forward and slingshot those Scarab Occult Terminators up the table is useful on a unit that moves very, very slow. It's a 2d6 inch move. It's going to be situational, moving in 2d6 inches to rescue a warlord or to move up to help a character out. But these movement modifiers are always good. Sorceress Infusion. Use this stratagem after resolving a psychic power manifested by a ThThousand Sons model from your army. If the result of the psychic test for that power was 9 or higher, if that model's unit contains any models that have lost any wounds, select one of those models to regain up to D3 lost wounds. Otherwise, if any models in that unit have been destroyed, you can return one of those models to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining, placing it in unit coherency. So I don't play Thousand Sons, I've forgotten the name of the psychic power that allows you to regain D3 wounds. So say you cast that on a 9 or more and you're regaining D3 wounds on something, then you could pop this stratagem and you're going to regain another D3 wounds, 2 D3 wounds, and you can put it on any Thousand Sons model from your army. Indomitable foes. Use this stratagem when a Rubik Marines unit or a Scarab Occult Terminators unit from your army is chosen as the target of an attack. Until the end of that phase, improve that unit's invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 3+, and it costs 1 CP. Scarab Occult Terminators with All Is Dust have a 4+ invulnerable save when they're getting hit by damage 1 weapons because of All Is Dust. Well, for 1 CP, you can make Scarab Occult Terminators, if they're getting hit by damage 1 weapons, have a 3+ invulnerable save. And indeed, if the All of the Dust rule isn't kicking in because you're getting hit by las cannons or you're getting hit by damage 2 plasma, then you can still burn this 1-point stratagem to give them a 4+ invulnerable save. Improving their invulnerable save by 1 for 1 CP is a powerful, very useful stratagem. Thousand Sons players are going to be using that all the time. And then Adepts of the Immaterium for 1 CP. You ignore Perils of the Warp. Now, that's pretty good. Most Thousand Sons player have that Gifts of Fate, that Weaver of Fates, that one that they cast at the start of a psychic test, the cast of the psychic phase that gives them a free reroll. But say you've perils and you've used your CP to stop you periling. Here's another way of not periling. You've used your CP to stop you periling, and then you peril again later in the psychic phase because you're a Thousand Sons player and you're casting 9 psychic powers. Well, for 1 CP, you can stop that Perils of the Warp. And if you rolled a double 6, the power's still going to go off, and you just stop the Perils of the Warp with Adepts of the Immaterium for 1 CP. That could be the 1 CP that keeps your Warlord alive, or guarantees that spell that you really needed to get off. So those are the new stratagems. There is only 7 of them, but as we can see, 4 out of the 7 of them specifically target either Rubric Remains or Terminators. And then the cults of the Legion, as I said, cannot affect Chaos Cultists or Zangar units. They don't gain the relevant cult faction keyword. So let's talk through these 9 cults. The Cult of Prophecy, the psychic power that you'll gain in addition to any sorcerer or any Rubricae who's a member of this cult in this detachment is Divine the Future. It has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, roll 1d6 and set it to one side, and until the start of your next psychic phase you can use that dice to replace a single dice roll for a hit, wound, advance or charge roll. Psychic test, deny the witch test or morale test for a Cult of Prophecy unit from your army. So it wouldn't affect Zangors or cultists, but it will affect anyone else. Essentially, on a warp charge value of 6, you get a miracle dice. And you can put it to one side and you can replace a dice roll after you've rolled it. It's better than a miracle dice because miracle dice, you put them in place for Sisters of Battle before any rerolls. In this case, it replaces a dice that you've rolled. You're rolling a hit with las cannons, so you're rolling to damage with las cannons. You get a 1 to hit, a 1 to damage, and you've got a 5 or 6 into one side with this dice. Then you can replace that 1 with a 5 or 6. Even if you roll a 3 for your miracle dice here, then 3's to hit in most cases, having an extra 3 in your hand. And remember, this dice, it stays. Until the start of your next psychic phase, it stays. You can use it in your opponent's turn to save for a saving throw. Sorry, no, you can't. It's for a hit, wound, advanced charge, psychic test, another wish test, or morale test. Okay, so that's what you do. Get a miracle dice. Warlord trait, guided by whispers. Once per turn, after this warlord fires Overwatch, it can immediately move 6 inches. And the Relic, the Sorceress Arcana, is the psychic brazier with when a unit within 6 inches of a friendly model with this relic is chosen to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, or 1 damage roll. Reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, or 1 damage roll. Now that's a 6-inch bubble. So if you've got your sorcerer at the back granting reroll hit rolls of 1 to some Hellbrutes or some Mauler Fiends, they're not Mauler Fiends, Forge Fiends, some shooty dudes in the backfield, then everything within 6 inches of him is going to be re-rolling 1 hit, 1 wound, or 1 damage roll every turn. And keep doing it, and keep doing it, and keep doing it. That's a nice little tool. Cult of Time. The psychic power for the Cult of Time is called Time Flux. It has a warp charge value of 5. Select 1 friendly Cult of Time infantry unit, remember, not cultists, not Zangors, because you've got to have the cult keyword. 1 friendly Cult of Time infantry unit within 6 inches of the Psyker, and you can return 1 destroyed model from that unit to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining. So you've got some Terminators, Scarab Occult Terminators. One of them has died. You roll a 5 up, you get a Terminator back for free. And if the unmodified result of the psychic test was a 9+, you can instead return up to D3 destroyed models from that unit to the battlefield with all of their wounds remaining, placing them in unit coherency. This is a warp charge value of 5, guys. That is crazy good. If you're bringing Scarab Occult Terminators, you're bringing this one, and you're giving this power to the Sorcerer, because he knows it in addition. The Warlord trait for the Cult of Time is, in your psychic phase, the Warlord manifests a psychic power with a psychic test result of a 9 or more. The Warlord can attempt to manifest an additional psychic power this phase. Only 1 additional psychic power can be manifested as a result of this Warlord trait per phase. But popping out 3 powers instead of 2, so long as he manifests 1 on a 9+. And the Sorceress Arcana, or the Relic, is the Hourglass of Manat. The first time a model with this relic is destroyed, it is returned to play with D3 wounds remaining, placing it as close to where it died. So you've got Demon Prince, and you've charged, or the opponent has charged you. You've got a Demon Prince with wings. It gets charged. It gets torn down. It drops from the sky. It returns with D3 wounds remaining. At the end of the phase, at the end of the charge phase, your Demon Prince with wings gets back up again with 1 to 3 wounds remaining, and it's a Demon Prince with wings. And then you can put D3 wounds on it, and then with the stratagem, and then you can put D3 more wounds back on it with a psychic test. If your demon gets up, and you don't need to roll for this, by the way. This relic, the first time a model with this relic is destroyed, it gets back up on D3 wounds. There is a potential by chucking the stratagem on the relic as well to give it an extra D3, and chucking the psychic power on that demon as well. Say the demon has got that psychic power that allows you to return D3 wounds. Potentially when it gets back up after being killed, it could get back up at the end of the phase with all of its wounds remaining. Well, not all of its wounds yet. It'll get back up with D3, and then you'll pop the strat in your turn, and then you'll cast the psychic power in your turn, and at the start of your turn, after the psychic phase, it could potentially be powered all the way up again. I'm just thinking about Demon Princes with wings, because I know Thousand Sons players like them, but you can easily put this on a sorcerer or something else as well. But it's a Guilliman get back up. It is a Saint Sabbath get back up, but you don't need to roll for it. It's just a relic, and you just get D3 wounds back. Oh my. Cult of Mutation. The psychic power warp reality has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one terrain feature within 18 inches of the psyker, then select one enemy unit within 3 inches of that terrain feature. Until the start of your next psychic phase, half that unit's move characteristics and subtract 1 from the advance and charge rolls made for that unit. Situational, but also very powerful. It will slow down very quick units from getting to you, Gene Stealers, for example, or rapid units. It doesn't say whether the unit can fly, the enemy unit can fly or not. You've got to, until the start of your next phase, half that unit's move characteristic can subtract 1 from advance rolls and charge rolls. Within 3 inches of that terrain feature, you can slow down fast attack units as well. It doesn't have to be an infantry unit. At being able to manipulate your opponent's movement phase. People like Thunderfire Cannons, not just because of the damage they can dish out, but because Tremor Shells slows down orcs, for example, a big mob of orcs charging forward, trying to wah their way up the table, move, assault, move, advance and charge, and this slows it all right down. So yeah, but it'll only select one enemy unit within 3 inches of the terrain feature. I like the fact it doesn't have to be on the terrain feature, just within 3 inches. But half move, -1 to advance, -1 to charge. The Warlord trait is the Touch of Vicissitude. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by this Warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 inflicts a mortal wound in addition. And Exalted Mutation is the Relic. It can be given to a sorcerer model only, and you add 1 to the strength, toughness and attacks characteristics of a model with this relic. If you there's other ways that you can compound strength, toughness and attacks with boons and other abilities in the Thousand Sons in the Thousand Sons codex. Essentially this is +1 strength, +1 attack and +1 toughness. You can start making your sorcerer a bit of a beat stick, bit of a champion ready to charge forward and smash stuff, and put some other overlapping combinations together. Cult of Scheming. Psychic power is seeded strategy. Warp charge value of 6. 1. Select one friendly Cult of Scheming unit within 24 inches of the psyker. That unit can shoot and charge even if it fell back. And on your Rubikai, giving them, remember your sorcerers have all got this ability in addition. So yeah, those that get caught up in assault can always fall back and shoot and charge. On Terminator units, that would be useful as well. Warlord trait, Grand Schemer. While they're within 3 inches of the Warlord, friendly Cult of Screaming units gain the Disciples of Cinch ability. And the relic is, once per battle in any phase, you can use this relic. You can root this incomprehensible relic. If a model with this relic is on the battlefield, you use this thing. If you do, select one stratagem until the end of the phase or until after the stratagem is used by the model with this relic's control and player. Basically, you get a free stratagem. You get a relic, and this relic gives you a free stratagem to be used by the model. And you reduce the command point cost of that stratagem to 0. So you can pick an expensive stratagem instead of a relic, essentially. The Cult of Magic. Psychic power, Astral Blast, warp charge value of 6. If manifested, the closest enemy unit within 9 and visible to the psyker suffers D3 mortal wounds, and each other unit within 3 inches of that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Warlord trait is Devastating Sorcery. When this Warlord manifests a psychic power that inflicts 1 or more mortal wounds on an enemy, increase the mortal wounds inflicted on that unit by 1, e.g. D3 becomes D3 plus 1. And the relic is, when a psychic test is taken for a model with this relic, add 1 to the total. +1 to psychic tests. Cult of Knowledge. Their psychic power. Psychic Delve has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker until the start of your next psychic phase when resolving an attack made against that unit by a friendly Cult of Knowledge unit. Reroll wound rolls of 1. Warlord trait Ardent Scholar. When a psychic test is taken for this model, you can reroll dice rolls of 1. And Ingladion's Cry is a warp flame pistol only. It's a pimped warp flame pistol. I won't go into the stats. Cult of Change, Disturb Reality is their psychic power. Disturb Reality has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 12 inches of the Psyker until the start of your next psychic phase. Subtract 1 from that unit's leadership and 1 from that unit's attacks characteristics. The Warlord trait is Fickle Nature. You can reroll charge rolls made for this Warlord, and it can shoot and charge in the turn it falls back, which is very interesting. And the Relic is Capricious Crest. Once per turn, when the psychic test is taken for a model within 18 inches of this relic, you can change the result of that psychic test as follows. If that model is from your army, you can change any roll of a 1 to a 6. If that model is from your opponent's army, you can change any roll of a 6 to a 1. 18-inch bubble, changing 1s to 6s in your army for psychic tests. You can change if you want to. Again, helping you get those super smites off or helping you pass those psychic powers. And an 18-inch range is very, very powerful. Psychic power of the Cult of Duplicity is called the Sorceress Facade. And this one is crazy good. Cult of Duplicity. It's a warp charge value of 7, so it's one of the most expensive ones in here. But if manifested, select one friendly Cult of Duplicity unit within 6 inches of the Psyker, pick up that unit, and replace them on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy models. And that unit is treated as having moved this turn. That's right, that is a pick up a unit within 6 inches of the Psyker and put them anywhere down 9 inches away from the enemy. You need line breaker, you got it. You need behind enemy lines, you got it. You want a unit of Scarab Occult Terminators that you've teleported in after they've shot and killed something on one flank. You want their sorcerer to do this power so they disappear and reappear across on the other flank. You've got it. This is another ability that allows you to pick up and you move units around. There are other abilities like this in the other codexes, which are stratagems, which cost 2 or 3 command points for people to do, to pick up units and move them around. Well, Thousand Sons players get to do this with a warp charge value of 7. And remember, every Rubikai and every Terminator in the Cult of Duplicity knows this psychic power in addition to the powers they already know. So they've all got an ability to get out of dodge. You're locked up in combat. Well, you can use this psychic power to teleport out of combat, and then you haven't moved in the movement phase. You'll be free to charge. It's a powerful ability, a warp charge value of 7, and I like it very much. The Warlord trait in the Cult of Duplicity is Duplicitous Tactician, and at the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, select D3 Cult of Duplicity units from your army and remove those units from the battlefield and set them up again following the normal deployment rules. If you redeploy a transport model, all units embarked inside remain inside the model. So you follow the normal deployment rules. If you're redeploying D3 models, so models that can only deploy in your deployment zone, you're redeploying them in your deployment zone. But models, for example, that you may that can choose to put in the teleportarium or not, you can redeploy those models. Models that you've chosen, you've used the stratagem to put 9 inches away from the enemy. The enemy seizes the initiative on you. Well, at the start of the first battle round, you can redeploy D3 units. You can pick up that unit that's about to get wiped out and put it back in your battle lines. The Perfidious Tome is their relic, and at the start of the first battle round, roll a D6, and on a roll of a 1, your opponent gains a command point, and on a roll of a 4 up, you gain a command point. At the start of the battle round, at the start of every battle round, you can gain a command point on a 4+. But if you roll a 1, your opponent gains a command point as well. I'll trade that. That's a 50-50 chance as the game continues. For at the start of every battle round, you get a command point. You're going to get 2, 3. And only on a 1 does your opponent get 1. So you're going to get 2, 3, you're going to give them 1. That's a fair trade. If someone said to you at the start of every battle, hey, do you want 3 command points and your opponent gets 1, you're going to say yes. And so a nice little relic there. The Cult of Manipulation is the last cult in here, and their psychic power is Attempted Possession. There's a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one enemy character within 18 inches of the psyker. That unit suffers a mortal wound, and until the start of your next psychic phase, when a psychic test is taken for that unit, subtract 2 from the total. So basically, it's a way of 18-inch range character sniping and putting a wound on an enemy character. 1 wound, that's it. But if you put that on a librarian, or if you put that on an enemy psyker, an Eldar Farseer, then they're going to be subtracting 2 from their psychic test. An enemy Tyrannid, Synaptic Neurothrope, Broodlord, Hive Mind? Hive Commander. My words are not coming out very well. Hive Guard, what's the one called? The big flappy guy with the wings. Hive Tyrant. He's the Hive Tyrant, and he doesn't have to have wings. He can be running around on foot like the Swarm Lord. Yeah, so if you're going up against a Psyker-heavy army, then you probably want to choose to make your guys part of the Cult of Manipulation. Maybe. Mind you, some of these other cults are just too good not to take. So this one's quite situational. Warlord trait, Beguiling Influence. Subtract 1 to a minimum of 1 from the attacks characteristics of models while they're within 1 inch of this warlord. So when your warlord's in close combat, -1 to models that are hitting him. And Sotha's Reflector. When a model with this relic is chosen to fight in the fight phase, you can select 1 enemy infantry model with a leadership characteristic of 9 or less and use their melee weapon against them. Just 1. They've got to have a leadership characteristic of 9 or less, and then you can take their weapon from them and smack them with it, or smack them. But you've got to be in close combat. So again, very, very situational. Now that's it for the cults. To repeat, they don't affect named characters, they don't affect cultists and Zangors. And as you can see with the stratagems, this book is designed to help Heretic Astartes. So you now, with the ThThousand Sons, if you get this book, you've got the ability for 1 CP to fire your Rubric Cremines or Scarab Occult Terminators twice. You've got the abilities to regain D3 lost wounds on a model. You've got the ability to add units back, add models back to your army that have been wiped out. I think the most powerful ones in here are the Cult of Duplicity, the one where you can pick up units and move them across the battlefield so long as they end up more than 9 inches away from an enemy unit. Remember this psychic power, the Sorceress Facade, affects 1 friendly Cult of Duplicity unit. That could be a Rhino loaded up with dudes. That could be a Mauler Fiend. That can be a vehicle, so long as it has the Cult of Duplicity keyword. And everything in that detachment, except for Zangors and Cultists, will have that keyword. That can be a unit of, it could be anything. Like I said, a Land Raider with a bunch of Scarab Occult Terminators inside of it. You pick it up, you move it. That's a really good ability, and also returning infantry models on a roll of a 5-up with a Cult of Time Flux. And putting an infantry model back in, and instead of on a 5-up, if you roll a 9-up, putting D3 models back into it. Getting free units back again. I think those are the standout cults for me, but that's what Stylus told me. That's what my ThThousand Son expert told me. So those are the ones that I'm highlighting here. There may be other psychic powers and other stratagems and other warlord traits that suddenly make you go, ooh, that's a really interesting one with my type of build and my type of army play. I like the idea of that warlord trait, or I like the idea of that relic. Well, remember, you get these for free now. You can add these to your ThThousand Sons list. So I think what we're going to see going forward is the ThThousand Sons haven't changed much, but they've got access to 9 more psychic powers, and some of them affect mobility and movement, and that's one of the ways we're going to see them change a little bit. They're going to be a little bit more tricksy. And the other thing that we might see is we might see some more power armored ThThousand Sons list rather than the Zangor bombs that we see running around all over the place, to use some of the shenanigans that I see in these pages here. What ultimately it does do is give ThThousand Sons players more ways to play their army. Now, the first time I flicked through, I thought, you get a psychic power, you get some stuff, and that's it. Well, No, it does change things for certain types of army builds, and it does add to the way you can play. So by adding to the way you can play, I guess that's what we want to see from the hobby. We want to see more ways of playing. We want to see different types of lists out there. So hopefully this will encourage Thousand Sons players to bring different types of lists. Maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see. Anyway, that's my breakdown of this book. That's my breakdown of the Thousand Sons section of this book. I don't know whether I lean one way or the other way with this one. I'm all over the place with this one. Maybe that's how Tzeentch intended it. Because there's layers and layers when you get into Tzeentch rules. I mean, these psychic powers can combine with other psychic powers. These warlord traits and relics can combine with other warlord traits and relics, particularly as you can bring 2 warlords along now for, yeah, it's a head scratcher, the Thousand Sons one. Also, I'm not 100% familiar with Thousand Sons, but Stylus, a little bit of wee came out when he read this. So if a Thousand Sons player does that, that means it's a big tick from me, I think. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Hope you guys like that breakdown. Happy wargaming.